Everyone. Thank you all for joining us in the very first hands-on session by RealityHACK 21. My name is Purva and I am the campus leader from Reskill and SparkAI. RealityHACK 21 is an online hackathon by Reskill in collaboration with SparkAI. Our main objective is to invite all the creators to learn about SparkAI Studio, no matter whether you are a beginner or an expert, and turn your imagination into reality by building amazing augmented reality experiences and publish them to reach billions of people on Facebook and Instagram. Just a little housekeeping before we get started. If you have any questions or doubts during the workshop, please drop them in the comment section. We'll take them up during the workshop. Also, do we have a Q&A session at the end, so we have got you covered. So, now without further ado, I would like to welcome our speaker, Mr. Akash Bajpai sir. Mr. Akash sir is currently working as an associate software engineer with Luz India. He is an AR VR enthusiast and innovator by passion. He has also been felicitated at 15 plus hackathons, including NASA Space Apps, Lois Hackathon, Snapchat Lensathon, Hackout, SIH 2020, and many more, with prizes up to rupees 70 lakhs. We are glad to have you here with us. Over to you, Akash sir.
Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot, Pooja, for that introduction. It's great to have to be here and to interact and know about augmented reality and share my experiences. So we'll start with the very basic of the augmented reality in this session. And to all the audience here, I'm assuming that a lot of people are here very basic, do not have much knowledge about augmented reality and Spark. Yeah, so we'll try to make things very basic and try to start from the very base of the complete setup. So just give me a moment.
Yeah, sure, sir.
Can we have the presentation back? Cool. So before, by the time we get the presentation back, I'll start with talking about augmented reality in the very basic. So augmented reality as a technology has been seen as the future technology for the past few years. And recently, after the new update by Meta, the new name Meta for Facebook, and the complete debate around the metaverse new word coming up, augmented reality has seen a major boom this time. And the reason why augmented reality is being seen as the future is how and what augmented reality promises. So AR promises us a new word where we can add something from our imagination. So most of the time what we think of and what we imagine, everything is either in a 2D space or most probably inside virtual reality, which is a separate technology from augmented reality. But augmented reality empowers us to add something to the real world. And that is the major power of augmented reality. And that is why big players in the technology world, including Facebook, including Microsoft, and other tech giants, most of them are interested in grabbing the market and grabbing augmented reality technology. And Facebook being one of the pioneers of that, we have been seeing amazing augmented reality experiences created through Spark AR Studio, and that all empowers augmented reality. So this was very basic of augmented reality. Whenever we try to add something to the current world, to the real world, which has some meaning, added meaning to it, that would be augmented reality. And augmented reality experiences can be powered through hardware devices, which could be a smartphone, which could be an AR headset, which are currently in development by a lot of technologies. And that enables you to add something new to the real world, so that is meaningful. So this was very basic of the augmented reality. Let's go to the next slide. So we'll start with the Spark AR Studio. Get to know about what Spark AR Studio is all about. What are the various features that we get in Spark AR Studio about augmented reality? How you can share your experiences, how you can create your experiences, and the new updates about Spark AR Studio in this workshop. As I mentioned, it would be a very basic workshop just so that everyone whoever is starting with augmented reality and Spark AR Studio will also understand and be ready to create an effect which they can submit in this hackathon. Let's move to the next slide. So what is Spark Studio and why was it important? Let's dive into that. So when you think about augmented reality, as like most of the technologies, it is empowered by two things. The first thing is the front end, that the things that you look, the UI part of the complete setup. So there are 3D objects floating around. There are some uh, 2D text that you add to your face, or all these things. So these are the front end technologies that enables and that requires a lot of thinking, a lot of innovation, a lot of creativity inside you. And beside all these technology is very strong computer vision technologies, is very strong machine learning technologies which enables them. So I call those technologies as the enabler technologies. For example, you are adding something to the ground. You are, let's say you are adding a plant on the ground in augmented reality. So that requires a lot of machine learning back in the back end, which enables you to track the plane. So, since this is a very vast technology, we cannot expect a person who is a very creative mind, who is an artist, let's say he's a 3D modeler, or he's innovative in himself, so he likes to play around with things. So, what if so we cannot expect him to be creating these enabler technologies. So we cannot expect him to go into computer vision and machine learning and then create a plane tracking system and then add 3D models on that. So that is not what we expect from generally. So Spark AR Studio is a great platform which provide these enabler technologies, tracking features, and recognitions and all those kind of things, so that you don't have to worry about how those things are getting tracked, how we are getting the estimate of the face, how we are getting the estimate of what are the reactions that the user is recording, all those things. We have to worry about the creativity, the innovation, and what we can add to that filter, or what are the effects that you can add to that. So that is what Spark Studio is all about. Let's deep dive into what is Spark. So the major features that I found in Spark Studio, which make it an amazing software, is it's a very powerful augmented reality software. So there are a lot of easy to use templates. There's an asset library that you can utilize, and a lot of customizations and controls that you can use, so that you can create those amazing effects. The next thing is the asset library that I was talking about. It has hundreds and thousands of files of 3D objects that you can use, a lot of pre-built templates that you can use inside that as well, and the creator community is also creating those. Next thing is that the Spark creators community, which we all are part of. So the community is very welcoming, and it has a lot of solutions that you might face about in the creation of the effects. You can see the effects that are being created on the Spark platform, so that you can get inspired from them. And there's also a built with or without code platform. So that means even if you don't know a lot about coding in general, you're not a very technical person, you can still create Spark effects using the inbuilt no code platform that will see the patch editor. That it enables you to add interactions, add logics to the effects without knowing the coding behind that. But you can also add coding using the coding languages enabled here. Let's go to the next slide. So before we start, there are some tips, overview tips of what a great AR filter would be. We'll definitely talk about them when we have the hands-on, but there's some overview that you should. A good AR filter should serve a need. Since when we create an augmented reality effect, as I mentioned, it should be a meaningful effect, which means it should have a meaning behind it. It should portray a story. It may portray some social message or something like that. So it should serve a real need. Think outside the box is the most important thing. So most of the very famous lenses that the very famous effects that you see are those which were very creative and which are very unique in sense. So people like to test with them, people like to interact with them, and these kind of lenses get very famous. So you should also make it very easy and fun, so that the user should not be thinking what is the next step that he should be taking, uh, how he should be recording. What, since we want him to be instantly using the effect, and should be surprised, should be delighted to use that effect. So it should be very easy for them to use that effect. And maybe if you want to add a scrolling, you can give some instructions, inbuilt instruction that we'll see, and these kind of things to make it very easy. And you should get out of the way. So generally we have a very close thinking when we are creating an effect. So but we generally should try to get out of the way and try something different, which of what we have been creating all around. So try and explore around the world. If you are not getting any inspiration, go around the world, you see different things, you see whatever is part of the nature, you can add that kind of things. And of course, for for this hackathon, they have the three themes which you can utilize as well. Let's move to the next slide. So we have got a powerful augmented reality software, Spark AR Studio, but two new capabilities have been introduced recently into the Spark AR. If you haven't updated your Spark AR Studio, if you had it lately, you can get your Spark AR Studio updated to the latest version, that is 126, and you can test these new capabilities, that is hand tracking and body tracking capabilities, which have recently arrived on the Spark AR platform. These capabilities let you to track this. Track the hand or hand movements, both of the hand movements. You can also track the complete body, each and every joint, and add some effects to that. You can definitely check out what are the different effects created by different creators using this on the Spark AI platform. Let's move to the next slide. Great. So this was a very brief introduction about augmented reality and Spark AI platform. But it's always great to test your effects that you want to create, or by going through the hands-on. So we'll go ahead and start with the hands-on session. I'll share my screen and we'll go through the Spark AI Studio complete setup. What are the different parts inside it, and how we'll utilize that. So I'll be sharing my screen now. Cool. Just a second. Um, I have shared my screen. Let's see if it's visible. Just give me a moment.
Akash, it is visible, yes.
Great. So, if you have installed the Spark AI correctly, you'll see this screen as the very first screen. And this is nothing else but the templates that I was talking about. So, if you're not very familiar, if you it's the first time you're using the Spark AI Studio platform, you can utilize these templates, which are pre-built from the Spark AI team, and you can play around that. You can edit these templates, and you can try to publish your first effect using these templates. So also these templates gives you an idea of what are the different capabilities that Spark AI Studio provides. So for example, you can add some face decorations here, which means that Spark AI provides you to face to track the face. Next thing, you can have 3D stickers in the word. That means you can add 3D objects to the real word. um, we have a wings filter, which determines which shows the capabilities of segmentation here. We have an eye color filter and all that. So these are the different kind of templates that you can utilize. In overall, we have three kinds of experiences that we create. I'm sorry, two kinds of experiences. The first is the sharing experience, which includes both of those, the Instagram filters and the Facebook filters that you create. And they are the sharing experiences, which include the selfie effects as well as the word effects. Now in beta, there's a video calling experience as well, which allows you to create effects which you can play around with your friends in a video call. So these are a kind of effects which are in trial basis. For example, this one, the group video call effect, which means you can vote in a video call by just tilting your head. So this is a one kind of effect that you can create as a sharing experience, video calling experience. Sorry. So it's good to start with a blank project so that we can know about what is the shape and structure of the complete Spark Studio. And then we'll create few effects around the theme that we have in the hackathon. So just giving some time to start. Cool. So this is the Spark AR platform, the complete Spark AR Studio effect. I'll start with the various sections that we have here. The first section that you see here is the scene section, which means all the objects that you are currently using in your effect will be seen here. We uh, by default, you will have a device which has a camera inside it, and a focal length, the focal distance, and a microphone. You might, if you don't need, you can remove the microphone as well. And below that, you have an add object button through which you will be adding everything that you want in your effect. No, and since this is an AR effect, we might need some 3D objects, we might need some audios, we might need some images from outside. So you can import those kind of assets in from here, which is the assets panel. So these are the all the objects that you have imported in your effect. But assets and scenes are different in the way that assets, everything that's inside assets is not definitely or surely included in the effect. So make sure you keep this clean. So only those things that you are including in effect should be here. uh, on the right hand side we have the properties panel. So every object has some inbuilt properties related to it, which you will see when you click on them. For example, the camera has following properties. We have a texture extraction, so we can extract the texture of the camera, that is whatever the camera is seeing as an image, and we can use that as well. There are a lot of features around that. We can have a segmentation here and all that. Let's move ahead. Cool. So some of the panels which are hidden here, which we cannot see right now, we can go ahead in the view tab on the top, and we can go on the show or hide patch editor. So this is the patch editor. It is a visual scripting tool, we can say. So if you're not very good in coding, you can utilize this patch editor to create logic inside your scene, to create effects that are more interactive through the patch editor. You can also enable the asset summary. It is very useful when when you have a lot of 3D objects inside your effects. So you want to make sure that you're not exceeding the limit of every platform. So each and every platform has a different limit. And of course Spark AR provides an inbuilt compression tool. So if you are bringing in texture, bringing in images, so it will automatically compress that, and you'll see if this is green, then you are good to go. You can publish your effects. Cool. This is also we can have the console as well. So if you're facing some errors, or you are writing a script which is facing some error, you can utilize this. So all this can be enabled through view, and you can enable all those things. We'll create a short effect using the patch editor, and we'll see how those effects are being run, and what are the different kind of interaction that you can involve. So let's start with that. So for adding anything, as I mentioned, we have to click on the add object button here. We'll click on the add object button in the scene panel. And since the top four are the trackers which you utilize. So for example, we have a face tracker, then we have a plane tracker. So the face tracker tracks the face of the user. The plane tracker tracks a plane ground. Target tracker uses a 2D image to be tracked, and you can add some augmentation or 2D image. And we have a hand tracker as well, so that you can the tool that follows a single hand. So if you're not very sure about anything that is inside here, you can see there's a short description about everything, and where you can utilize them. So you can you make use of these informations, or of course you can go to the documentation as well. So let's start with the face tracker. We'll add a face tracker here, and it automatically gets added, but you won't see much changes here. One more thing, since you might see a different screen here where you are seeing a small box, because I was working on a word effect recently, so it has been switched to this. You can click on this small video icon and change it to a face template that we have. So this will help you to check whether your lens has been made correctly or not. And also you can have this camera option enabled here, so you can utilize your own camera for that. But we'll go ahead with the real-time simulations here. We'll use this video to check if everything is right or not. So as you can see, there are three arrows here, which are the movement arrows. You can change them to the rotation arrows or scaling arrows from here. So they are moving with the face, and it looks like everything is correct. But to make sure everything is correct or not, we'll just right click on the face tracker, go to add objects, and we'll add in face mesh here. You can see there's a face mesh option here. We'll add that. And what this does is it enables you to have a face mesh around the complete face of the user. So now you can more visually see if the face is being tracked or not. So here's something like a checkbox. So since we don't have any material on the face right now, so it's a checkbox. We can add different materials on that. But for the sake of this tutorial, let's go ahead. I have some assets from which I downloaded previously. We can utilize these. So for example, let's assume that we wanted to add these horns on the top of the face. This is a 2D image, a PNG image that I downloaded from the internet. You can definitely think of different places as well. Let's drag it inside the assets folder. There it goes. So it was as simple as dragging and dropping. Since Spark AR platform has a limited type of uh, images, the limited type of 3D or models that you can, the limited type of extension that you can use. So you should always try to go ahead and search for those kind of access. So PNG, JPG are definitely permitted. We have a PNG here, and what I'm trying to do is trying to add horns above this face. So let's go ahead, right click on the face tracker, go to add objects, and we'll go ahead with a plane. Cool. So a plane is nothing else but a rectangle that you can add something on. uh, I just paused the complete video so that it doesn't move a lot while we are testing this. You can do this from this left hand side panel, where you can have the play and pause button. Cool. Let's move it a little bit up, and this is the exact place where you want the horns to be. Cool. But this is now a checkboard right now. We want the texture here to be applied to this. For that, we need to add a material on that. So we'll go on material, and we go on the right side where we have a materials option. We'll click on the plus button, and it automatically creates a new material. Since there was no material in the effect, we'll create a new material, which is completely gray. Now materials need to have a texture if you want to add something to that. So we click on that material. We have the diffuse texture on the top. We click on that and select the image that we brought in. There it is, but it's not scaled correctly, if you can see. uh, so we'll just select that plane here which we added, right? Now currently we're on the move tool, so we'll just move it back a little bit so that it collides a little bit with the face mesh. And we'll also then switch to the scale tool, which means we'll resize it. We'll just make it a little wider. Looks good. And since we don't not need the face mesh right now, we'll just delete that. Good. Let's play the video and check if things are good. Hmm. So things look good, and we can, if it works, let me check. Guess it won't. Cool. Since I have my camera on, so let me just stop camera. Cool. So we'll go ahead with the real-time simulation only. Great. But let's see the capabilities of patch editors now, since we have a small effect running. I'll just move this video here. So let's assume we want that when he smiles, the horn should appear. So while he's not smiling, the horn should not be there, but once he smiles, the horns come up. So this is the kind of effect that you can create. Let's go ahead in the patch editor. So when you right click on the patch editor, if you the first thing is, if you don't see the patch editor, you can go to the view. As I mentioned, you can click on show hide patch editor, and it will be visible. You want to add anything to the patch editor, just you have two options. You can right click anywhere in the patch editor, and it will show this list, or you can click on the add patch button, which is in the right hand lower corner in the patch editor. So there are a lot of things that you can see and enable from here. I won't explain most of them, but since the list is very long, so you have some animations here, you have some audio related things here, you have a body landmarks which is recently added here, you have the device related things, and we have the face landmarks here which you can utilize. But we are more interested in this interactions thing. So interactions are the different kind of facial emotions or facial events that happen that you can utilize in your effects. For example, we have an eyebrow lowered or eyebrow raised. So whenever the user is raising his eyebrow, you want to do something. Of course, you would have seen some of those effects that happen where you raise an eyebrow and something happens. So all these kind of events that you can use to trigger some kind of effect. So we were talking about smile, so let's go ahead and add smile here. Cool. So this small box that we see is called a patch. Everything that is here is called a patch, and you can see there are two arrows, one behind that and one in front of that. So every patch has some inputs in it. So this is an input that we have, which is a typeface. If you can see, let me zoom into that. Cool. So the input that it takes is kind of is of type face, and the output that it gives is the gesture state. Cool. So before that, we'll also need, since it's asking for a face, we'll have to add a face finder. This is an inbuilt patch that is provided by Sparkia that will help you to select a face. So since in a lot of effects there are more than one persons inside the video, so it gives out a faces kind of output, which is not a single face, which is a sort of array of faces. So we want to select a face for which we'll use the face select. This patch will take an input of faces, which is here from, so we just connect those, and we have selected the zeroth face. So since the index is 0, that means we are selecting the zeroth face from the faces array that is provided by the face finder. Now we give it as an input to the smile effect, and that means whenever he smiles this would be triggered. So let's zoom in to show you that. Just give me a second. Cool. So whenever he smiles, if you see this small box blinks for a while, that means he's smiling. So this small thing that you can use while debugging that. We'll just pause the effect. And what we want was to enable this horns whenever he is smiling. So for that, if we go to the plane and we go to the properties, this visible thing is what controls if the thing is visible or not, if that particular element is visible or not. So if I uncheck it, you'll see that the horns go invisible, I'll say. And if we tick that, we'll see that the horns are visible. So that's very small thing, and we want to control that through the patch editor. So this is very simple in the term, because you can see there's an arrow behind this visible thing, which means if you click on that, it will come to the patch editor. Let's see that. Here it comes. So this is the visibility of the plane 0, the plane that we added, on which we added a material of the horn, right? So we want to control that through this. We'll just make a connection, and that makes sense. So let's play. So while he'll be smiling, the visibility will be on, and while he will not be smiling, it will automatically turn off. So this was a very small patch that we created using the face finder which was inside that. You can also use the different interaction that are other different interaction that you can utilize. For example, a shake of head, kissing face, maybe an object tap. We'll see the object tap in the next effect that we'll be creating. You have a right eye closed, and all these kind of things. So these kind of effects that you can utilize, since when you will be going into more complex effects, you will be utilizing more of the utility things that are packing 3D boxes, or maybe unpack, or maybe a hand finder and option picker options, which are the most utilized things by me. So these are the kind of things that you'll be utilizing. So this was a very small effect. You can definitely experiment around and add more and more features on that. Spark Air platform is a very strong platform, so you can combine more effects and create something around that. You can definitely add a segmentation on that as well. So this was a very basic thing that we created. Let's now create a word effect. So how a word effect is different from what we have created right now. So this was a selfie effect, which means we were playing around with the front camera of the user. But a lot of effects, and majorly the augmented reality uh, domain, is around the word AR effects, where we'll be adding something to the word. Just give me a second. Just close this. So we have created a new effect, and we'll play around with the word effects. So I was talking about the word AR effects. Word AR effects are when we are playing around with the back camera of the user. So when we are adding something to the real word, it's a word AR effect. And on the contrary, we have a selfie effect, where we be adding something to the face, or more than one faces. So let's see how a word AR effect comes in place, and we'll also see the asset library that Spark AR provides. So since we are creating an word AR effect, two things to start with is to switch to back camera. Just behind this, but we have a switch to back camera button. We'll click on that. And one more thing, that we want to change the video to the last one, which is the real word video. Now when you are switching to this, you'll see that you have one more capability. So if you click, if you hold and drag here, you can move around in the real world to see what are the different things around you, and this comes very handy when you are trying 3D effect. Also, if you go on options here and simulate, change it to simulate touch, that means you can now touch on objects, different objects around you. You can definitely enable that in the front effects as well. So an orbit means you want to or rotate, or and simulate touch means you want to touch on something, or maybe simulate the touch where that the user will do. Cool. So let's create something spooky, some ghost effects. We will go to the asset library that Spark AI provides. So Spark AI, as we talked previously as well, has a huge library of 3D assets, and different types of textures which you can utilize in your effects for free. And these definitely these are Creative Commons, which means you can utilize that with no copyright infringements. So how to open that? You have this asset library icon here on the left hand side panel. If you click on that, and this is the complete AR library. So you can search for anything that you want. We have 3D objects here, we have some music and sounds here, some patch assets which you can utilize in the patch editor. We saw that. We have some textures, blocks, script packages if you are trying to write scripts, and some color alerts. But we'll start with the 3D objects, so because most of you won't be very good at 3D modeling, so and we do not expect that as well from you, so you can utilize these objects that are provided by Spark AR. But to enable that, you should link your Sketchfab account with that. You will get the instructions when you open this tab, since I have already linked that. So let's search for a ghost kind of 3D object. Cool. So here are some of the ghost. When we searched about ghost, it went to the Sketchfab library, which is a 3D modeling library, and it is showing all the different 3D models that you can utilize. So let's go ahead with this one. Cool. So this is a ghost 3D model which we can utilize. We'll click on the download button, and it's done. Great. So when it's how will you know it's correctly done or not? You'll see inside the assets folder. So if you see inside assets, we have a ghost here. Now we want to add that on a plane, that is the ground. So what you want is a tracker, which is a plane tracker. So let's see the definition. What it says: a tool that tracks an infinite horizontal plane. Currently, Spark AI provides only one plane tracker at a time, so you can utilize one plane tracker. We'll insert that. There it goes. And also, one thing to notice that you see here is that you can now move around the 3D world with using WAS and D keys. We'll see that when we add something. So how to add that ghost on that plane? Very simple. Drag it from the assets and drop it on the plane tracker. Not anywhere around, but on the plane tracker, so that it is on that plane. And as we do it, you can see in the 3D word here, it is added. You can utilize the right key on the mouse to rotate around the 3D object and see. But currently it's a little oversized, so what we'll do, we'll just change to the scale option here and grab it from the center and decrease the size. Looks good. So this is a 3D model in the effect, and again we can see here, we can pan in the user panel to see if it has been added correctly or not, and we can use the WA and SD keys to move around in the 3D bird to test that. This is one way of testing your 3D effect. Another way is to utilize the Spark AR Player app in the Android Play Store. So if you have a phone around you, you can download that Spark AR Player app in a phone, connect with your laptop in the USB debugging mode. You can search on net how to enable that, and then you can directly send that to your smartphone that is connected here. So for example, my smartphone is not currently connected here, so it won't show here. Otherwise you can do that. One more thing, that if, let me check. Okay, I'll check. Done. We have selected a sharing experience here, so it is enabled for Instagram and Facebook currently. Okay, now if we click on test on device here, you can see we can directly send it to Instagram or Facebook, and you will get a notification on a device, and you can test on those applications as well. So this is a different way to test your lenses, but since this takes a little time, so you can directly test most of the features here only inside Spark Studio. Cool. We have a 3D model, and that will be placed on the ground, but that doesn't look lot good. Let's add a particle effect around it. What is a particle effect? Particle effects are a repeated kind of particle system that we'll see. Let's add that, and that will be more easy to see. We go to add objects here, and we'll select the particle system, which is the last item here, and click on insert. Cool. There it goes. Oops, I should add that to the plane. So we'll right click on the plane tracker and then add that, so that it becomes the child of the plane tracker, so that it follows the plane wherever it goes. Cool. So the particle effect is added, but if you see, it is very small in size, and it gets finished very quickly. So we'll go to the properties of the particle effect here, and let's go down to the particle scale and lifespan. This is the one of the most important things that I like to edit in here. So lifespan means for how much duration will the particle be visible and then goes off. So for currently for zero point 0.4 seconds, a particle will be visible and it goes off, but we want it to be available for more. Let's change it to 10 seconds and see. It goes a little more. We need to decrease that. Our three is also a little great. Let's go to one. Yeah, one looks good. Nope, doesn't look good. Go ahead with 3 seconds. Yep. So we have a particle just below the ghost model that we have, but these particles are a little small. We want to increase the size. We'll go to the scale settings of the particle, and we'll make it 0.1. That's a little too large. Let's make it 0.01 again. Okay, let's make it 0.5. So most of the time you'll be testing and trying most of the things, and you'll see when they work out. So currently we are trying to make it a little better. Cool. Also, one more thing, since we do not want it to emerge from a single point as it is currently doing, we'll just go up and change the emitter type from point to a plane, which means it will now come out from a plane sort of shape, and we'll just make it 1 cross 1. The changes are clearly visible, I guess. We have now particles coming off all around, but these again are checkboards. We want to change that to something else. I guess I have yeah, I have a bat image. So I've downloaded a bat image from the internet, which we can utilize. So again, it's around your creativity, whatever you can think of, whatever you can imagine adding around the ghost effect would be what you add. So we'll again go to the emitter. We'll find the material that we want to add, where it is. Yeah, there it is. So here's a materials option. So everything that you want to add as a texture on that, we'll first have to add a material around that. So we'll just add a material, and since there was no material, we'll create a new material. Here you can see in the assets we have a material 0 now. We'll go to the material 0, again change the texture to the that texture that we had, and there you go. So if I put it around, you can see there are some bats floating around. Let's move in, and yes. So I'm using the WASD keys to move the camera around to see how the effect is looking. Great. Uh, Anytime if you think you want to restart the lens and start from the beginning, you can use this restart button here in the right side, and it will restart the lens. So you can see the bats will be starting floating right side like that. Cool. Hmm. Any more change? Let's see. We need in the particle effect scale. Cool. Looks good. Okay, so we have some bats floating around here, but let's utilize the patch editor again to add some effect to that. So we'll go to the view patch editor, and the patch editor is back. What should we do? We should, let's create a loop, and let's create an animation here. So since some 3D models have inbuilt animations which you can utilize, for example, that may be a line walking. So some of the 3D models have inbuilt animations which you can utilize, but mostly it is not very easy to find good animated 3D models. And some basic animations we can definitely create inside Spark AR as well. So these kind of animations means some movements, some basic movements, some basic rotations and all that. That can be created through the patch editor itself. So let's see how we will do that. Okay, so let's imagine that you we wanted that if we tap on this ghost, it should come towards you. Cool. So this looks like a good concept. What we want is if you tap on this ghost, we want it to come towards us. So we want the first thing, the initial thing that we want is to be able to tap on this ghost. So for that, we'll right click on the patch editor here and go to object patch. Oh, sorry, object tap. Object tap means whenever you want to add something, whenever a 3D object or 2D object is being clicked on. So for that, we use an object tap patch. So again, object tab has two inputs and one output. The input here is the object that we want to be tapped on. For this case, we have the ghost model. We'll drag it from the scene into the patch editor. That is possible, and we just drag that, and that is a object type of model. We can definitely connect it directly. Cool. And when we tap it, we want an animation to occur. But let's test if the tab thing is working or not. For that, we'll, since we know that the visibility thing that we tried earlier, we'll tap on click on the ghost, we'll click on the visible marker that we have there and the arrow just on the side of that. So this is the visibility of this ghost. Let's click on that. Oops, I just made it wrong. Okay, for that, okay, let's go ahead with the animation only to save some time. Cool. So we what we want is to when we tap on this ghost model, it should move towards the camera or towards the front side. So we'll right click here. We'll add an animation. Since this is a type of animation, we'll add that. And whenever is this ghost is tapped, we want to play this animation. There you go. So whenever the object will be tapped, the animation will be played, and the animation is always connected to a transition generally, which means whenever you want to, also this is sometimes used as a timer also, but uh, uh, what animation gives is we have a duration here. That means for how much duration you we want to play that animation. For example, let's make it 2 seconds. So this animation will be played for 2 seconds, and it gives an output is the progress. So it starts from 0 and the progress will go to 1. That means the amount, the animation, that much animation has been played. Okay, so to the progress we'll add a transition here. Transition means from where to where we want to go. So the currently the position of this ghost, if we see in the properties panel, it shows 000. That means the current position of the ghost is 000, which is at the center here. That is the start position we want, so it is already filled in here. And the position that we want it to reach is something, sorry, move tool, we want it somewhere around here. Let's see. Hmm, cool, let's move it to here. Cool. That position, if you see in the transformations in the position, it says minus 0 point something. I'll just copy that and put in the end section here. This is 0 and this is something else. I'll change that. Cool. So what I did here, we have made a transition which starts from 000 and it ends on this position, the current position of the ghost. That means it will start from here and here. We'll give that value to the position and it will animate. So to do that, again we'll have this arrow again against the position of the ghost. We'll click on that and we'll get the position of the ghost in the patch editor. There it is. We'll directly connect that. So since the currently the progress is 0, the ghost is positioned at the 000 position. We'll restart the lens to make things good. And now we'll try to tap on this and see if the animation gets played. I hope I haven't made any mistake. Looks like not. Cool. So to tap on this object, we are currently in the rotation mode. That is the uh, simulate orbit mode. But we want to make a touch on the screen. We will switch to simulate touch, and yes, we have done that, and we'll click on that. See, the animation gets played. So this was what I was talking about. We'll restart the lens to check that again. Cool. So this is a very short animation that we see. Definitely, it's not very scary in the sense, but for such short time, this looks good. I'll restart the lens. Cool. The lens looks good. Anything else? Okay, good. Now we'll just quickly see how to publish this lens and what are the different things that you'll require for making a valid submission in the hackathon. So this is the currently spooky 3D model here. We have added these effects. There are some guidelines to making the good effect publishing. So for sake of time and for making sure that our submission does not get rejected, we'll be submitting a link only lens. A link only lens means the people who have been shared that link of the effect will be able to utilize that effect, will be able to review that effects. And for that, for this hackathon, we'll be publishing a link only lens. So to do that, of course, you'll see that there is a publish button on the right hand side upper corner. We'll click on that. It will ask some things, for example, whether you are publishing a new effect or it's an updating of a existing lens. For our case, it's a new effect. We click on that. We have some platform requirements going on here, but we have met both of the requirements. That is the file size requirement and the capabilities requirement. The capabilities requirement means some capabilities are supported by Instagram but not supported by Facebook. So if you want to use those, you have to switch the platform. Everything looks good here. We'll just go to upload button. Cool. So the process is very simple. It will upload it to the Spark App platform, and then it will open on a browser where you will be adding some details about the effect, and then you will get the link to utilize that. Great. So the effect got uploaded, and now we are heading over to the Spark App platform. Great. So this is the screen you will see once you upload a new effect. You see a publish an effect option here where you have to provide a name to your effect. The file that was uploaded, you don't need to mess around here because it was uploaded automatically. You want to select the platform that you want to your effect to be visible to. Since we are not making a video calling effect, we don't need Messenger here. So we have specific platforms, Instagram and Facebook. We don't want it to be public yet because it will go through a review process, which is a longer process. We'll go ahead with the link only lens. Great. So you should be seeing your name here and the platform name here. If you want, you can add an icon to your effect as well, which is optional. So it's not necessary, but you can add an icon here as well. Let's name this filter as, oops, just a second, spooky ghost. Okay. We have named it and other things looks good. We can publish it now. We'll take a moment to upload that file that we created, and then we should be good to go. Great. So the effect got published. We'll just quickly open that link. Yes, so once you just upload the effect, you'll see this view link option. We can use this link in the submission, which will be required. So when you make the submission to the hackathon, you will be requiring this link, and just after this link, you'll have the effect ID as well. There's other way to see that. For example, if you press this done button, you go to the details section. Just a second. Okay, there's my home. Okay, is it visible? Yes, it is. Cool. So if you want to copy other things about this effect, which you want to which are a part of the submission of the hackathon, you can of course go from here. Inside you have the copy effect ID option, which will copy the effect ID. I'll just paste in the, so you can see this is the kind of effect ID that is there. Also, this is the same ID that will be part of the link as well. So if you see the link that you are sharing, it is at the end of the link the exact number of the ID. But since um, it's a testing link, so if you see the content of this link, it has some characters at the end, which are the characters which will be able to use to be accessed. So don't remove that. So it should not be like this. If you can see the above thing that you can see, you should not remove the last part because it's a test only link. Great. So you get all those things, and now you can make a valid effect. But if you want to publish this effect, you can of course go to the publish effect option here, and then it will go through a review process by Facebook, and it will be visible to a larger public without any effect link requirement. So this was the very first effect that we created, and we utilized the Spark App platform to create this effect. There are different possibilities. You should go ahead with your imagination, whatever you think of. So the very first step for creating an AR lens is imagining what you want to create. It is not about the technology behind that. It's not about I want to create um, uh, let's say a body tracking effect, hand tracking effect, but you should have an idea around that, what the meaning is of about that effect, and how it will turn out, and what it should look at the final stage. So that if you have that in your mind, it will be looking very good, and you can definitely very easily in very less time create a good effect and a winning submission for an hackathon as well. So this was the very basics of the Sparkia tutorial, the platform that I was showed. But this is not it. I have since there was a limitation of time, we have seen very small part of this transition. I may not be very clear in some parts of it as well. So you can go ahead and check the Sparkia creators channel, and there are other workshops visible on the Reskill channel. Other There are a lot of resources around Sparkia that you can utilize to see how different effects were created. You can definitely, if you are lacking resources or you are lacking inspiration, you can go ahead and on the Sparkia platform, we have a lot of submissions that you can see the other creators what they have created. So with this you can definitely understand how things are created. For example, if you go into this gallery section, you can see other creators what they are creating, how they are utilizing those effects, and you can definitely get some inspiration from there. And this is a very good community which utilizes these effects in a very great manner. You definitely see that in the reels and all that. So that was it from my side in terms of this um, tutorial and hands-on. We can definitely go ahead with the questions if you have any, and I'll be happy to share that, answer that. Sure.
Thank you, Akash sir. The session was really informative and interesting, and I'm sure it will help many students to kickstart their journey with augmented reality and will also help make them their first AR effect. And now we are open to the audience questions, and we would first like to take up questions related to Spark AR, and then we can take up queries related to Hackathon, if any.
So I can see a few questions here. We have a question from Komal Cha. What do we have to do? Publish or just collect link? So you do not need to publish the lens completely, because once you have a link for that, you have made a value submission for that. And after you have completed the hackathon process, you should go ahead with the publishing, and you can then share the effect with the public and your friends as well. I'm not very clear about this question. Can we do it with online without downloading? So if you're talking about uh, downloading Instagram or the Spark app player, that's not possible. But yes, the very basic things that you'll be requiring to make a value submission is a Spark app player inside your laptop that you use to create the effect, and then you will be needing a Facebook account through which you can make the submission, and that's it, I think.
Exactly. For the hackathon, we only need to submit one effect. Yes, you only need to submit one effect. Okay, out of the four challenges, so you need to be complete. You don't need to complete the four challenges. Select the challenge which you want. So I think we have answered all the questions. Any question, guys? Remaining questions? Sir, there is one question that how to resolve the size before publishing it. There are many size issues with the effect. How
Yeah,
we can
so
resolve that?
when you are creating a large lens which has a lot of 3D models, maybe a lot of images, a lot of textures, you will face this kind of problem where it might not be supported by one platform or maybe all of the platforms. So when I see 3D models as there are a lot of tools to compress those 3D models available online, which you can utilize, of course. But mostly you should go ahead with some low poly 3D models in your effects, which have less vertices, less triangles inside that, and you can find that in on the Spark asset library as well. Coming to textures, you can of course compress those textures beforehand, importing that in the Spark, and Spark has its own compression tool as well, which makes it easier. So if you're facing that tool, you can utilize other tools which are available online for compressing uh, 2D images or the 3D models that you have. Of course, for 3D models, do not use a lot of textures 3D models, because in a lot of 3D models, the major asset that the major space that is taken by the textures of the 3D model. So you can use the asset summary in the Spark to know which thing is capturing more the space.
Okay, the way to submit the link of the website. Okay, we are giving the link, guys. You can go to the link. Let me add the link on the chat box so that you can go ahead. There is one more question, technical question, that can I add any kind of PNG on this, or it is need any particular file, texture or mesh?
So mostly PNGs are supported, but there are some requirements on that. You can go ahead on the Spark documentations about what are the different types of requirements for any 3D model or any image or any audio. For example, for audios as well, you cannot import an MP3. You have to go ahead with an M4A. Then there are different compression techniques on that you can use to compress your audios. Specifically about images as well, there are some conditions on that, so you can go ahead on the documentations to know exact about that.
Okay. Uh, One more question I think we have, that is it necessary to publish the filter on both the platform, Facebook and Instagram?
No, but since there are some capabilities which are, since Instagram has more capabilities in terms of augmented reality in some terms, so if you are using some of those capabilities of the Spark app which are only supported by Instagram, you can go ahead with that only.
Okay, great. So I think we don't have much question now. Okay, so guys, register for the hackathon. Links are in the chat. Okay, team will share a question. Please answer Aditya questions. If you have any question, Charvi, please, you can ask. You can ask in the comment. We'll love to answer all these questions. Okay. Okay. So students, I think thank you. Okay. To you. You can change your challenges when you are submitting your effect. Okay. So after the submission time, you can change the you can change your what the question was. Challenge. You can change your challenge. Okay. You can change your challenge, Arvi. Okay. Now that's all for this session. Thank you, Aditya, for this lovely session, and would like Akash. Sorry, thank you, Akash, for this lovely session. And it's nice to talk to you. Nice to learn from you. And we hope that we'll meet soon in the next session. Thank you.
Thanks a lot for having me, and all the best to all the participants. Make your best creativity.